My name's Max, I'm 58, I'm a retired television reporter, and I am spending a whole year being 100% food self-sufficient. Everything that I eat and drink has to come from this small holding in Somerset. Today, I'm halfway through the project. I have lived a food self-sufficient life for 6 months. What have I learned? Quite a lot hasn't worked out for me during the course of this project. I've got potato blight. To all intents and purposes, our wheat pretty much failed. There's nothing I can do. That is all the potatoes I've got left. I want to live a real human life and live real human experiences. A total disaster. I've got to prepare all my meals, everything from scratch. The season's just crazy. No sunflower seeds on any of them. This garden got abandoned and it's now a mess. I'm worrying about what life's going to be like for the next 3 months. I am worrying about it. The first thing I've learned from this project is that staples are absolutely essential. It's what we eat. If you've got to harvest and store a lump of food to see you through the winter, staples is where you go to find that. Wheat, potatoes, rice, maize, sorghum, those sort of crops. I knew when I started I needed to have enough bread and potatoes to get me through a year. And I thought, if I've got enough bread and potatoes to get me through a year, then whatever happens, I'll pretty much be fine. And I haven't had enough bread and potatoes. They've had to be constantly rationed, and that's been a problem. My arable crops, wheat and barley, were planted around the edges of our small vineyard. The wheat, sowed at the end of March, established well, but as it ripened, it became a magnet for badgers, which rolled all over it to get at the corn. In the end, we only got a small crop, which had to be harvested by hand. Making bread from my own wheat is a joy. It makes me feel like a man connected to the land, even if the end product could be fired out of a cannon at one's enemies. Potatoes, I think personally I was a little bit unlucky that I didn't get the crop I was expecting of potatoes because they got potato blight. Still got some reasonably good potatoes at the end of it, but not as many as I was expecting. That's less my fault because it was also unbelievably dry and there was very, very little water. And although I was watering and watering and watering, it was incredibly dry. Up until Christmas, I had loads and loads and loads of vegetables and stuff. That was easy. And I was able to make lots and lots of vegetable stews and stuff like that, which I was batch cooking, and they were great. I didn't have any meat at all. We hadn't killed our bullock. We hadn't killed any pigs. And so I was basically being a lacto-vegetarian for the first 2 months. I actually lost about 1 stone. And I felt like I was, it was being really healthy. After Christmas, I've been eating meat and dairy and a little bit of bread a couple of times a week, maybe 1 or 2 potatoes every other day. But my meals have been like eating meat. I started to feel really tired. I started to feel like really sluggish. I was worried that my cholesterol was going to be off the clock because I'm on a very, very high fat, high protein diet. And so I went to the doctor and had all my bloods tested, to find out. And actually, I'm as fit as a fiddle. This is what eating seasonally is about for me now. This is the last of my brassicas, which have been keeping me going. Very, very rough types of kale here. This is Cavallonero. The very first bit of purple, late purple sprouting, it's just coming through here. That's what these are. And so, yeah, seasonal eating is just about eating what's around at the right time. I've got loads of leeks behind you, which are, my actual vegetable staples.
And how have you found it doing it with this project?
I've discovered that eating seasonally is delightful and exciting and wonderful. My son Ollie said when you interviewed him at the very, very beginning of this thing, he's going to get really bored.
He's pretty quickly going to realise that he really fancies tom yum soup and, a nice bit of grilled fish. And I think he's going to hit him and he's going to be like, you know what, I'm really, really bored of cauliflower cheese.
It hasn't happened. I've taken such pleasure in eating things as they come along. It's been a real adventure. The last thing I've kind of discovered, I think probably after 6 months, is how milk is my new staple. I wouldn't have managed without Browne. Milk's been so important to me. Milk and cheese and butter and yogurt and dairy produce. So without my staples, I've only really managed because of milk. Yeah, Brenda is greater than the sum of her parts, absolutely. And although we feed her a little bit of bought-in food, I buy in hay from somewhere else in the village. She produced 278 kilos of beef from her calf. 278 kilos just off her own milk and grass. It's an enormous amount of food, huge amount of food. It's got to be 500,000 calories that she produced all herself. It's a huge contribution to my diet, our family diet, and the living generally. Enormous difference.
And what about the manure?
Yeah, and huge quantities of farmyard manure, which is, obviously making a massive contribution to the veg we grow in our crops and stuff. You've got very, very, very sweet smelling burps. That's what people can't tell about calves, just from watching a film about it, Brenda, that you've got very, very sweet smelling, beautiful burps. They smell of pickled grass. Sweet pickled grass. And they should all be like this. And -10. And they're still fine. No, God, I'm not ready.